New digital technologies are driving a step change in enterprise business transformation. At the Digital Twin Podcast, we explore the intersection of technology and business. What should your digital twin look like? Hello and welcome to the Digital Twin Podcast. Your host, Omar and Hari. Hey, Omar.
How's it going, Hari?
Pretty good. So
Welcome back.
today, welcome back. Today our topic is autonomous vehicles. There's a number of disruptions in the market, in the transportation sector. In fact, some of them are disrupting other disruptions, an interesting situation. So, we found this to be an interesting topic to discuss and maybe, get some feedback from our listeners on. What is your, maybe I'll start with a question, right? What is the biggest disruption in transportation that you see today?
Yeah, I think we hit on it right a little bit with the title about autonomous vehicles. I wouldn't say autonomous vehicles is the biggest disruption yet, but the way we use vehicles to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about taxis and buses and the way we used to interact with that exchange or transaction has evolved over the last few years, from the big names of Uber and Lyft and creating a mobile first strategy on how to interact with assets that are around you, and the vicinity in you and getting to you and servicing your needs pretty quickly. I mean, that has revolutionized the way we interact with vehicles that we all share. I mean, and I think it's quite disruptive. It's so disruptive and so sticky that it's almost, I mean, it's very rare that you find anybody that hasn't ordered an Uber or ordered a rideshare, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's part of our DNA now, right? So when you think about that, how quickly that changed, um, the behavior, we start to think about, okay, well, that happened fast, you know, what's next, right? Is there something that is almost in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
that is at the doorstep of what might be disrupting the current disruption?
Yeah.
I
What's
mean,
interesting with that disruption, though, is the fact that it's simply a shift in business model. We didn't find a better car. We didn't change the engine technology. We don't have flying cars today, right? It wasn't a technology change. It was a business disruption.
yeah, people call it mobile strategy, mobile first strategies, how you integrate, how do you get closer to your audience, right? It started from the phone or from just regular phone calling to get service to, hey, you can order on the web through your desktop, through your laptop, to, hey, it's all in your hand. The means of getting closer to your customer and getting to them first faster has been a lot of focus on a lot of disruptive business model shifts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we call this the mobile first strategy. How do we shift more to mobile, right? Everybody interacts with the internet these days or social media. Nine to one is through their mobile device,
Yeah.
right? Their actual mobile device versus a traditional desktop or a PC, right?
So more consumption driven. The customers are gravitating towards something that's more mobile, and the consumption method is changing. They want
Yeah.
it now. They want it on the phone. They want it driven. They want it driven based on that instant gratification, right?
And it's an empowering attribute or feature
Mm-hmm.
or capability for us to actually be able to do that. I mean, that wasn't there, 10, 12, 12, 15 years ago, right? Being able to do
Yeah,
everything you want
definitely
at the
driven
palm
by
of your
mobility.
hands.
Yeah,
It is big, right?
yeah,
So this is one of those mobility trends that have really disrupted the the way they used to always do things. And it's been a little painful for that transportation, ride sharing um, environment.
Yeah.
You would even think, first it was taxis, but then you start looking at the rental car companies, and it's hard not to say that they're not getting affected by this either, right? I
Yeah.
mean, why would you rent a car for a certain amount of time when you can pay by usage, right? So this is where we go with the rent a car model, where you rent it for a period of time and it's so much versus you calling an Uber for the exact usage.
It's just a different slice of time.
It's a different slice of time, but it's a
Yeah.
different way of consuming what you want, right? So that business model of
But
saying, hey, we
that
want to
is.
sell you this block of time
Mhm.
to use this asset has shifted to, hey, just use it when you need it, right?
So it's going from, so rental car is really car as a service, right?
Hmm. Yes, that's right. You are empowered.
And Uber is time inside of a car as a service.
Yes, take me where I want to
Right.
go, and it's finite.
So
The
yeah.
the the different things there is that with a rent a car, you can go where you want to go. You can take the roads you want to take. You can stop where you want to stop. You can do what you want to do. With ride sharing, it's very binary and finite, right? You know your endpoint and you know where you're going to get picked up. And people are okay with that. They like that exactness, and I know where I need to go, and that's it. If I need to walk somewhere from there, I got it, right? Especially in heavily dense populated cities, that works, right?
So this could be attributed to the general trend in as a service, though, right? Pretty much everything everywhere is moving into an as a service model, and thereby this makes perfect sense that you're taking a time slice off of a service, and you use it for 10 minutes if you're in New York City, go from one street corner to another, and you're done, you're off the car, it's over, right? You didn't own anything really.
Hmm.
um,
So you just got the outcome,
right.
right? What that you were seeking. And there's a lot of people out there that says, well, eventually this is disrupting a lot of things, but what is the end game for this? Is that everything that I want to do in life is a service that I'm gonna have to pay for some way a la carte?
So
They're
this.
gonna get me
Yeah.
pretty soon. They're gonna say, "Hey, how much air are you breathing? I need to charge you for that."
Yeah.
I mean, how far do you go with this?
So the interesting part that we looked at, right, and most of our listeners would probably know this already, that Uber and Lyft are not really making money, right? And two of the major players, and they're not making money not because their car hailing service itself is, it is making money, but the problem is around the customer acquisition, right? So your point about how do you change an economy to a as a service economy? There's a cost associated with it, right? Because now you're running that service and you need to get customers to adopt to this new service model, and that's going to cost the companies that are in the space, at least in the pioneers of that market, going to cost you some money. As a result, I mean, it's their cost of acquiring a customer is so high. That's the reason for their loss.
Well, and I think what some customers as a service, as you're saying, business model um, sounds great. Valuations are great, but executing and sustaining and keeping your customers happy
Yeah.
doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So it's like once you start down this path, you have to keep up that experience, that value to keep that money flowing versus selling them a chunk of X and I
Yeah.
got it up front, right? It's a different business model, right?
So the main topic of our conversation today is
Yeah.
autonomous cars. So how does that play into this disruption? And where is
Well,
the end game?
I think you got to look at what that means, right? What do we really mean by autonomous vehicles or autonomous cars, or what does that look like, right? And I think when you boil it down and simplify what that means is that I am going to be able to utilize this asset in a way that is autonomous that I don't have to interact with another human, right? That somehow the infrastructure of the asset and the roads, bridges, whatever it is, the grid, whatever you want to call it, is going to take care of what I want. And I'm going to be able to do that in my own bubble, in my own world, without interacting with anybody else
But
to
is that the objective, or is the objective something different? Like, what's the objective of an autonomous car that Tesla built?
They're
Is it
taking
to
the
avoid
they're
other
take
humans
they're taking the human element out. That's if you think about autonomous,
for
you want to take
safety,
I that is a
for
philosophical
efficiency?
question. That's a very philosophical. People are like, hey, I wanted to be autonomous. Is it because of cost, safety, experience? What is it? Right? And if you really think about it, I mean, why do people really want?
So if you're taking the human element out,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's really what's
you
happening.
could definitely argue that that's to improve safety because you know it's the human element that causes most accidents.
Well, I guess you that you do have a point there, right? But you also have people on the humans saying that the robots have a mind of their own. The autonomy just goes and you don't know what's going to happen. I have no control. When you have no control, guess what? It's scary, right? It's this
Yeah, that's for
balance of
sure.
and that's
Yeah.
you feel better with a human driving or
Or
a
your
robot
hands on it,
driving.
right? You feel
Yeah, you want
better.
hands on it, yeah,
Yeah.
So it's getting to trust in the autonomous environment ecosystem. We believe that the system is very minimal of flaws. Therefore, our confidence level is high to trust our own safety with it, right?
And it's
And I
worth
think,
yeah, it's worth pointing out that this is not a trend just in the mobility space. You
mm-mm.
look at any industry, that sort of autonomy is kind of taking a center stage because that is the next big thing.
And you say everyone keeps pointing to that that's the next big thing, but is it the right thing, right?
That could be more
If you really think
philosophical.
about, yeah, if you think about autonomy and the right thing, right? We talked about mobile first, right? We talked about the information age and how quickly can you get your information faster and quicker. The mobility aspect has driven that. The next new age of autonomy is is what everyone is future forward looking, but is it the right way?
Why not?
And is it the right way for the right reasons? Is it all just to get costs down so that we make life easier for everybody and we can control the outcomes? I
I
mean, what
would
is it all
I
about?
would continue to maybe propose that that's mostly driven by improving safety. Now, cost could be a major factor in it. So, I mean, we looked at, let's say, while we were researching this, we looked at Uber and any rate car services,
Ride
right?
sharing,
Today,
yeah.
ride
Mhm.
sharing services. They have actually added more cars on the street. They're actually causing us, you know, more in terms of carbon footprint than before. So the reality is that it hasn't gotten us to a better place from a, you know, uh, from a green perspective, from a traffic congestion perspective or traffic management perspective, but it definitely has improved people's life, right? You can just tap on your phone and get in the car and go where you need to go.
It's taking the mind away from the concept of driving and concentrating and using that mental stress and strength of getting from point A to point B or worrying about somebody else getting you from point A to point B because they just step on the pedal a little bit faster than you or they have a heavy foot braking, right? You're taking that mental exhaustion from people to focus on their mobile applications, their social media, the rest of
Or
their
make them more
life.
productive, right? They could be working,
Exactly.
they could be on a
Whatever
conference
it is,
call.
whatever they want to spend their
Yeah,
time, they're getting it back. So what you're giving them is peace of
productivity.
mind and time and productivity. This is what you're giving them.
Yeah. So
So it's not just yeah, go ahead.
so the other disruption then we talked about is taking that to the next level. That is exactly what they're scaling. So if you look at autonomous cars, now you're talking about completely having the freedom to do what you want to do in the car, and the car's driving you around, right?
Yeah. I mean, office on wheels, right? You know, depending on, but we talk about this. You're more productive in a vehicle, but with trends that are happening today,
Hmm.
where are you going, right?
Well, you're always connected. That means you're connected
You're
in the
always
car.
connected, right?
10
Yeah,
years
but
ago, that wasn't the case. If you were in a car, no matter what kind of car you were in, you were not connected, right?
exactly. But if we're connected to everything.
Hmm.
Where are we going, right? Like, why do you need to get in a car and go somewhere if you're already connected to everything? Like, are you just doing
Maybe
the
that will change
exercises?
someday. So for
Right?
the for the for the
It's just
yeah.
some food of thought, food of thought, right? Like it's like
Hey, wait, COVID situation has made many of
really,
us realize that maybe we don't need to go every place we
maybe we
thought we
could
needed
just
to
stay
go.
at home. Maybe
Yeah.
we can all just stay at home and we can be just fine. You know?
Find a nice vacation spot, hang out
We
there,
just get
right?
a screen and just have a screen take us there, right? We don't need to get outside of our bubble. Everyone stays in the bubble, right?
So I do want to get back to this.
Yeah.
Autonomous cars, how is that disrupting the disruptor?
Well, I think what you're going to start to see there is the way that the current ride sharing ecosystem works is really the backbone is the software, right?
Hmm.
Is the connecting the human to the other human, right? And which is the driver. And
Yeah.
right now with the ride sharing services, they don't really necessarily own the asset of the vehicle or the human, right? Nor do they own us as a customer. They're trying to keep us so that we interact with each other. They're forcing the interactions with, they're brokering the communication, right? Now, the autonomy, how this is going to be disruptive to the current environment or and the way the ecosystem, the way we use ride sharing is they're going to have to make a interesting choice, right? Are they going to be building these autonomous vehicles or are they going to partner with autonomous manufacturers, right? What's to say that the autonomous manufacturer says, hey, we don't need you. We have our own ride sharing program that's strictly to our beautiful vehicles. It's called the Mercedes Benz. They go onto the Mercedes Benz app and they get the black car treatment all the time. They get the Benz
You
treatment,
get the
right?
brand experience. I think that's a
Exactly.
great thought
You
process. In
see,
fact,
you
I
see,
mean,
so
it
think
is,
about the
yeah,
disruption that's going to happen.
it's an extension of what we do in other places. You think about pretty much every hardware, right, is becoming as a service.
Yeah.
So, from a Tesla's perspective, it's a matter of time when they would offer that as a service because ultimately, if we don't need to own another Tesla, if you and I don't need a Tesla, why would Tesla sell it to you?
Yeah. And it all goes into the minimalistic feel, right? The simplicity that we all want to live our lives, that we don't want to be held down of, being brought down by, even we think about this even with homes right now, right? We think homes is the biggest asset and it's the most appreciated asset for us. But who's to say in 10, 15 years from now that that's still going to be the case? I mean, we've just been disrupted
Hmm.
in the automobile industry. I mean, what's to say
Yeah,
that it won't be disrupted in the biggest asset that we think we really want? And we have a growing generation that don't want to own. They want to be
absolutely.
free of this. They, that's the
Free of
nature. That's
shackles.
free of the shackles, right? I don't want
Yeah,
anything weighing me down.
yeah.
I just want to use it. I want to know that I can use it when I want to use it.
Where
That's
I
it.
want to use it.
Just like
Wherever. Yeah.
CDs. I have streaming music. I have all the music available to me in the world. Do I have every CD in my house? No, I don't need it because I have it all in my phone
Yeah.
when I want it, and I pay when I need it. That's it. That's
So
you
the
know
interesting play though that's happening and out in the market is the Ubers of the world, ride sharing companies are building the autonomous driving capabilities. Autonomous driving cars like Teslas or Waymos of the world are also going to get into the ride sharing type. Not exactly the same model, but would want to rent out cars for time, right? And
Mhm.
then you have the traditional car companies trying to figure out where they fit. Companies like, you know, a Toyota or Honda, where do they play? Now, in all
now now
this,
now now that we talk about Toyota and Honda and all these companies. they really look like they're behind the eight ball. For some reason today, we feel that they're behind the eight ball.
Right.
All of a sudden, in a matter of a year, 2 years,
Didn't take that long.
Tesla and
Yeah.
all these electric vehicles and autonomous technologies have come in and just flipped
Flip the
the
game.
space. They flipped the game. You see it today. You see it today with Tesla. Obviously, Tesla is a very, very strong example, but my gosh, they have no dealerships.
Yeah. And this would also add to the fact that, every car, every vehicle, not just car, a truck, from a transportation perspective, goods transportation, is also changing to autonomous driving. Right now, Tesla wants to build autonomous trucks. So there are
Hmm.
truck manufacturers, there are truck drivers that all kind of rely on a particular type of a business model that just changes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that disrupts not just the production or car companies that are in the production of cars, but also the middlemen, the folks that are leveraging these assets to provide services to the community, right? So it's a complete disruption, and it would be interesting to see how this would kind of mature with everybody trying to provide the
Yeah.
ride sharing service in an autonomous way.
You know, for the autonomous vehicle, I think it's exciting, right? A lot of people are doing it, but what I think is going to be more exciting or interesting is the players that are going to own the infrastructure and which makes autonomy, the autonomous vehicle, the autonomous movement of things
Mm-hmm.
within the city, as we mentioned, like in smart cities.
Yeah,
This is the new infrastructure frontier. We're building the future toward autonomy, right? And
absolutely.
how do you accelerate that? You create infrastructure that can enhance the autonomous vehicles, the autonomous experience. And that's where, policy regulation and things like that can come into play to really move this the acceleration that we're seeing in the space. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, you know, are futurists and they can kind of see things coming down the road. But I think, you know, autonomous vehicles is one application that is going to be here. I mean, we didn't think a lot of people think they would never see it in their lifetime, but I think we will.
Yeah,
Um,
we didn't touch a whole lot on electric vehicles and other disruptions that are happening in the space, but I'm sure we could take another episode to talk more about it. But given the time, we should probably wrap things up here.
Absolutely.
Um, Appreciate folks listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
If
just
you
send in your comments, whatever
absolutely
you guys have. This
and
is Omar
subscribe.
Hari.
Yep, and subscribe. And we're on YouTube. It's Digital Twin Podcast. Also, you can reach us on our website, digitaltwinpodcast.com. And look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook. Facebook
Thanks,
Live.
guys.
See you later.
Have a good weekend.